should Tennessee fans be upset that Nico Iamaleava is reportedly looking for more cash and renegotiating his contract? Caleb, should Tennessee fans be upset? And are you upset on the message board? Want to hear from you.
Guys, this is the same Tennessee fan base that supported the Tennessee administration and the state of Tennessee for declaring open war on the NCAA on behalf of Nico Iamaleava's ability to do this. Like,
true. It could come across as a little hypocritical, as you're referring to the lawsuit in which the NCAA basically went belly up and said, you can pay players, you can do all you want to, we can't stop you. And the private flights that you gave Nico back and forth from Knoxville to LA is perfectly fine. There's some truth to that. But Caleb, I would offer this as well. Even though there might not be a binding contract, shouldn't there be some of the notion that, hey, we're all on the same page here? It's the orange and white game. I mean, there could be situations in which your employer benefits greatly financially by what you're doing. There are times, though, to ask for more money. And obviously, the Iamaleava's family, if this is actually the case, which we've heard conflicting reports, if they're going after more money, this would be their time, because the spring portal opens April the 16th. Caleb, I think it's a little bit hollow, to be honest with you. I think that if Nico's asking for more money, he's done it before the orange and white game because football is at the top of everybody's mind. And then he's done it before the spring portal. But I tell you what, I'm calling bluffs if he's legitimately talking about going in the spring portal, because I don't know of a single player that's gone in the spring portal to another school that's had success. It's just too short of a turnaround.
No, yeah, I think, look, I absolutely think this is bluffing on Nico Iamaleava's part, just to see if he can get more. But so what? He's allowed to do that. And this is part, like, if you want NIL negotiations, this is what comes with it, honestly. So yeah, part of NIL negotiations is bluffing. I mean, that's how negotiating works. I mean, Dave, how many times have coaches bluffed in their life? I mean, how often, you know this, how many times did Nick Saban leak that I might be looking at this job? I might be looking at Texas. He was never going to Texas, was he? Ever.
Well, I'll play one closer to home that I know better. Philip Fulmer used to always leak, or his agent leaked. I don't want to put it on Philip, but his agent, Jimmy Sexton, would leak that he had interest from the NFL and being an offensive line coach. That was when he was a coordinator at Tennessee and then a head coach, where some wondered, would he take a head coaching job in the NFL? No, Philip Fulmer was never going to do that, but it was leaked out there for leverage.
Yeah, I actually remember that. I think it was the Panthers specifically. They leaked a report about the Panthers being interested in Philip Fulmer as a head coach 1 year. And look, honestly, that's what they do. They bluff all the time. Guys, this is what people fought for. Now, I'm just going to say this, Dave. Two things could be true. I'm not going to call Tennessee fans hypocritical on this, because you could be for Nico's right to do this, but then you could say, but he hasn't earned the right to do this because he hasn't performed well enough. But so maybe.
Well, let me address that for a second, because Dylan nice enough to give us some numbers. Nico makes $2 million a year. Lagway 3.8, Lenore Sellers 3.7, Garrett Nussbauer 3.6. He's every bit as good as those cats, is he not?
Lenore Sellers was better than him last year. Lenore Sellers almost single-handedly got at South Carolina into the college football playoff. I don't know if that's going to last this year, but Lenore Sellers was almost Johnny Manziel late bloomer. I think we underrated how well he played last year down the stretch. John Adams won at South Carolina in the college football playoff just because of how well he was playing.
I still believe, though, there's a lot of unknown with all the quarterbacks we mentioned, Lagway, Sellers, and Nico.
Oh, there is. There's a ton, and there's development required and things like that. Let's get to Timothy's super chat real quick. Let's pull that up, because he says no such thing as college football anymore. This is semi-pro and it's pay to play. Since they have contracts, there's to be parameters saying if you don't meet these, you don't get paid.
Here's the problem. They don't have contracts. They don't have binding contracts.
These are endorsements. Yeah, these are just straight up endorsements. They don't have binding contracts at all. And you can't put that on the player. It's not, you can't even put it on the school. You put it on the businesses that are willing to open a check. And Dave, here's what's happening. Let's call it what it is. The market is determining this. The market is basically saying if these businesses don't write them a check without any demands, another business for another school will.
Okay.
So that's the problem.
Smoky Mountain Red has this to say: with the changes coming to the NCAA, with money kids are getting while they can, I would tell my son to do the same thing. So let's go to today's tough question.
One
Brought
more
to you by
super chat real quick by
Okay, we're
Timothy.
going to do today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
You suddenly have agents involved, and you have a group of media members that are not used to dealing with agents. And there are some things that agents could tell you that don't necessarily need to be reported. Like, is Nico renegotiating? I would say he's always renegotiating. You know, if he throws for 500 yards against Florida, he probably comes in Monday and renegotiates. So I think that agents can float stuff out there. I've wondered aloud a couple of times on this show when agents have a more prevalent role. I think that's the situation. So I believe that Nico's father, when he says we haven't asked for more money or aren't renegotiating, I believe that's true. I believe, though, that the agent is always renegotiating. And
Always, that's their job.
Yeah, I believe that's probably where this is coming from.
I think you're right. You know what it reminds me of? Is like, remember when Kevin Garnett got that giant record contract with Minnesota in '97, and we found out he wasn't even involved in the negotiations. The agent did the whole thing, but he got the record contract, and then that it led to the NBA lockout. Like, I think people don't realize that happens a lot. Athletes don't like to deal with negotiations a lot of times. They want to focus on playing their sport, and they just say to their agent, get a deal done. And then the agent goes and gets the deal done. They don't want to work on that type of stuff. So, yeah, I think that's very possible with Nico Iamaleava on that front. And I mean, that's why, what if this isn't coming? You're right. What if this is something where it's coming from Iamaleava's camp, but it's not coming from his family. It's coming from his agent, and the agent didn't even talk to Iamaleava's family. That's highly possible, by the way, that happened.
It's very highly possible. As a matter of fact, out of all that we've hashed out, I would say it's the most likely. Elias says, now I'm guessing this is Nico's, clear us up here, Elias, says he feel like a source he trusts with his life has to be a long tenured support staff member. Or, unless Chris Lowe happened to have gone to college with Jimmy Sexton. I'm sure that Chris Lowe trusts Jimmy Sexton with his life. So, you know, you can have a history there. I don't think that's a natural jump to go from, hey, this has to be a high level member. In other words, I don't think this is necessarily as high as Josh Heupel, Joey Halsley. I think it could be somebody just in the recruiting office for that matter.